Now, some of you may be thinking, where's the music? Well, honestly, it gets annoying after a while, and I turned it off. In fact, I usually have Pandora playing in the background to lighten the mood. I just had the sound effects on. But anyways, I've gone out here to space. It's a little bit less busy. And I'm going to tell you about these icons up here in the upper right corner. Now, granted, you can move this to whatever corner you like. This is completely movable and customizable. This icon will take me out of the orbit around the Kronos system, main planet anyway. This icon has a tendency to change. If you go on ground, for example, it'll transform into an icon where you can beam back up to your ship. And that's good if you want to abort a mission or you're done with the mission. You want to get back to your ship. This is transwarp. You click that, it'll bring up a menu. This menu will change based on how many transwarp beacons you might have dropped. And you get more as well as you progress through leveling. This will scan the area around you. Now, you see how it gives a line saying points of interest there. It did say 0 anomalies. If it said 1 or more anomaly, it might have pointed me to an anomaly. And that would be gas anomalies, minerals, things you could pick up for the research and development crafting system, which is good for some people. I don't use it terribly much. It's great for making upgrade kits. More on that later. But yes, otherwise, if there's 0 anomalies, it'll also take you to your next objective. Point you to it anyway. That over there is it's a little hub for lifetime members that almost never gets used. This will bring up the overview episodes mode, find things to do through here. You can also get this if you, I forget the hotkey for it. There's hotkeys for all of these things. They'll go to a specific tab. It gives you the option to replay episodes you've finished or missions you've finished. And sometimes you want to do that because you can get extra rewards for it. Shields, engines, warp cores, that sort of thing. Over here is the Foundry. Now that's pretty cool because this is where all the player-made missions go into. I haven't made one myself, but you can do that through the system. They have a little development kit and test server for all this stuff. And when you make these, people can donate a little bit of dilithium, which is another in-game currency that you can earn as a tip, if you want. In progress, show all your accolades, your little rewards. Consider them achievements if you want. But you don't get a point value. Well, I guess you do. It doesn't mean anything. Logs, I think I've gone in here maybe twice in the entire time I've played Star Trek Online. But you can go back through here and check completion times and very occasionally certain items of interest. On the second column here, in character status. Now, I usually just hit K because that takes me to the skills tab and it brings up the entire window anyways, but status will show you the status of your ship or your person. It'll show things like your inventory, what you've got equipped in your kits, for example, your environmental suit or armor, shields, weaponry you have equipped, and devices you have equipped. And all of this will also affect what is available to you on the skills or powers list. It'll show your active starship. You can switch down here. In certain areas you cannot switch. For example, you can't switch in combat, for example. On this screen, you can adjust the loadout of your ship, and again, this will affect what's available to you to put on your list. I usually don't put anything beam weapon or cannon. I just fire everything that I can by hitting the spacebar, which fires all weapons that can hit your current target. I leave the torpedoes on here because I have a bunch of abilities for them anyway, and beam abilities, beam overload abilities, and beam batteries, that sort of thing. All this changes. Depending on the ship you have, you can have different unlocks as you use the ship and you amass kills in the ship. Show you a complete list of stats based on your current loadout and your levels and skills, And you can adjust loadouts and switch on the fly if you have the capacity for it. I have rarely used this, but sometimes if you have the time and you have all these maxed out weapons of different types, you can customize a loadout for a particular event or a section of in-game, for example. Like you might be playing nothing but in-game that involves a certain race that is quite susceptible to disruptors, for example. I just use disruptors anyways. That's what I focused on. That's what I focused on my consoles on. I had consoles that buffed disruptors specifically, and that's how I did my build. But it's by far not the best build. It's I'm not a DPS character. I'm not constantly measuring myself. I'm just trying to have fun. It also shows your current equipped shuttle, if you have one available. I'm just going to come out and say it. In my opinion, the shuttle missions are terrible, but in some cases it's necessary. Certain missions are shuttle only. Certain events are shuttle only. And underneath all this are your currently active bridge officers that have joined your crew. You're going to have a whole bunch in inventory that you haven't approved to join your crew, but you can level up their skills, discharge them, put what you want them to use in there. And in the skills tab, you can adjust your abilities, and you'll get points for this as you level up to a certain extent. And this can be customized based on your intended playstyle. Like if you're going to be doing as much space as possible, you'll probably want to focus the majority of your points in space, and that'll also be based more on what ship you tend to fly as well. There are some people that have tons of little respec tokens, and they respec all the time. Most of my stuff is focused on ship because I just think that the space combat is more fun and more superior in terms of development. But I also have a bunch of weapon proficiency and personal shield generator buffs in here, and the ground abilities that I've added skill points to. And you can do the same thing for your bridge officers. And you can, this is fairly recent, but you can change what they have equipped on the fly at each tier. And now, depending on what rank they are, they'll be able to use a tier. Like this is ensign abilities and lieutenant commander, and commander, which is the top rank for a bridge officer. But in space abilities, what space abilities you'll be able to use will be based on what you have equipped on the officer and what station they're at, and what the station has in terms of how many ranks it can do. Let's give you an example. In this one, it has a universal console that goes up to 3rd rank, a tactical slash I believe that's commander and intelligence console, I forget which. Anyways, that's up to 3rd rank, an engineering console which is up to 4th rank, another tactical console which is just ensign rank, and a science console which is just up to the 2nd rank. Now, if you have a medical ship, you might have something different. You have a carrier, you might have something different. There's a whole bunch of different options there. And over here, we have reputation. That just shows all the reputation missions. You won't be able to get to much of that until you're upper level. But you will be able to do special events in which you can earn tier 6 ships, which is pretty cool if you don't want to pay money. Specializations is what you start earning once you reach level 50. You get specialization points, which let you have extra buffs and abilities, some of which are passive, some of which are active. Passive means they just work. Active means you have to equip them or you have to use them. And you select what you're going for, what track is currently equipped, for example, as a primary and secondary. Traits, same thing. You get a certain number of them available to you when you start out, and a certain number of slots available to you when you start out. But you'll gain more as you level up, and you'll gain access to more things such as space reputation, ground reputation, and active reputation as you progress through the reputation missions. Stations, as I said, all the above here, where you can change what people are at what station, which directly determines what abilities you have available to you in your power list. On the small craft as well, You can see how often I use the small craft. And you can set who you want on your standard away team. At the start, you won't have that many bridge officers. It'll just be standard security officers with basic abilities. Now, right here, this is the same as hitting the I key, which is inventory. You know what inventory is. R&D shows all your R&D assets, stuff you've picked up, stuff you've earned. Sometimes you get reward missions. Some things are extra rewards for other R&D missions. And assets just shows what in general, what marks you've earned, dilithium, that sort of thing. Now, replicator, you can buy using in-game credits. And this is just the in-game currency, not the microtransaction currency. Certain elements, like if you just don't want to run back to someone that's selling it, you can just replicate it and it charges a little bit more. You can recycle certain things if you don't want to bother finding a vendor. You don't get quite as much back for it. And you can retrieve items you didn't mean to recycle. Now, upgrade is a relatively new addition. You can upgrade certain items. Let me see. Here's an example. I'm going to put this in here, item upgrade slot. And I can add extra buffs in here. I can add an accelerator if I have one. And I can do things such as build it up to where it goes to the next rank and build up the chance of it going to a higher level of quality. Like uncommon, rare, ultra rare, epic, that sort of thing. For example, here's an orange item, and that's an epic device, but that's a specialty item. Mail system, basic stuff. Social system, you want to add friends that aren't in your fleet, for example. You want to find a particular fleet that isn't advertising in the main chat over here. That's all available to you. Settings, as I said. And the help system. You can get some basic stuff through here, and you can report bugs, and you can do account support, but let's just say that response times are pretty darn slow. If you have something really that outrageous, you're almost better off calling them. But then again, I haven't had to try and talk to them for the past couple of years, so I'm not sure how much they've improved or lessened in terms of quality. Bottom row, the Zen store. This is where all the microtransactions take place. Buy things such as duty officers if you don't want to earn them. Dry dock slots, which is where you put your inactive ships. This is a big one. Key packs. Throughout missions, you'll get little boxes and drops. Certain items like Dominion pack, Zindi amphibious pack, Delta expedition pack, things like that. You don't know what's in them. You know what has a chance of being in there. If you're unlucky, most of the time you'll get things such as Lobi in a small item. Lobi is another in-game currency for yet another set of specialty items that you can purchase. But sometimes you'll get things like special weapons, either space or ground. Sometimes, in very rare instances, you'll get special ships. And a lot of these ships can only be gained from opening these packs. That's not to say you won't have a fun time if you never open one of these packs, but they limit your options. And naturally, because the object is for this company to remain in business. Research and development bundles. This is a time saver. If you want to spend money to snag certain items, certain elements that would otherwise take a very long time to acquire, or you'd have to take some really hard mission tasks on to get. But yeah, and loads and loads and loads of ship options, some of which are available from the get-go, but most of these are all, for purchase. Duty officers, basic items, all of these things have explanations on them. Various services, appearance, cosmetic packs, costumes, options, that sort of thing. Personnel. Yeah, you can explore that. I would say about 99% of this stuff is entirely optional. No, I'd say 100% of the stuff is entirely optional, but let's just say that the event games, most of the time they have you go through to get those T6 ships through the events, are not terribly fun. And it takes some perseverance, because some of these events are mind-numbingly boring. And again, this is all my opinion. You do get some pretty cool rewards from them. I wish they'd improve some of the events. The lithium store. You can retrieve things that you have. You can buy things like transwarp coils to increase your location abilities. You can buy lockboxes, which again require keys to open, and specialty weapons and suits, pets that you can actually use, reclaim things that you've dropped along the way or deleted, and buy specific modules for kits. This is a pretty busy tab. You've got your overview of the system, which is the duty officer system. And duty officers, you send on missions, and you have them complete R&D tasks. Once you reach a particular rank in any of these categories, you get the option of purchasing a new officer within a certain subset in the duty officer store. You get a free token to purchase it, and you build your stock that way. You can also pick up officers through the academy. The academy for Klingon, the academy for Starfleet, and the flotilla for Romulan. You can pick up free or downright cheap officers that way, but they're absolutely basic. And you can upgrade them by trading in 5 of the prior quality rank for what you hope will be a good officer on the next tier rank. For example, you could trade in 5 uncommon duty officers for 1 rare or blue officer, and just hope that they have the qualities that you want. And that kind of matters, because when you go and look at missions, for example, they'll have specific requirements. Now, this one doesn't require a specific type of duty officer. Not really. You can put whatever you want in there, but to get a good rating on success, you need a prisoner. I have a couple prisoners, but you'll see they have specific characteristics. For example, this one has logical, is a founder of the Federation, is peaceful, stubborn, and telepathic. Green means it has something that you want. Red means it has something that you don't want. Now, you're never, well, almost never, going to get everything that you want to fill your slot. And that'll just increase the failure or disaster rate. You never lose duty officers unless the mission calls for it, such as the case of you're installing a diplomat, for example. You will get them in sick bay if the mission fails, for example, and that just means they'll be out of commission for a certain number of hours, depending on the mission. But yes, you do that, you earn ranks. That's another thing you just do. It's a daily thing, if you intend to pursue that. Now, view your roster, and you can sort by specialty, status, quality. You'll see that there. You have the option of active space or active ground. This just means that you take duty officers of a particular quality, whatever you want, and you make them an active duty officer. And that gives you certain buffs. For example, this rare... is that rare? Very rare, excuse me. Con officer gives me a chance to lessen the time it takes to recharge the evasive maneuvers ability, which is pretty handy in some situations, especially certain events like the crystalline entity event, when you're running away from the starburst effect, I guess you'd call it. Things like that. And similar on the ground, you get certain elements. You can beam in an extra squadron of security officers, for example, or get an extra medical effect buff, that sort of thing. Just keep in mind that whoever you install here in active duty will not be available to go on duty missions. You may have missions that give you personal buffs. You have missions that will give you resources. Every mission gives you a certain level of dilithium, I believe, in most cases, but it's very small. But it gives you skill points towards a particular type of duty officer role, and it gives you skill points in general. Just be careful on some of these. They mix them in. You can't get rid of them that I'm aware of. But some of these items required for these missions are moderately rare, or just take a particular scenario to get. You have to be in a particular location to grab them. And sometimes it's annoying if you lose it when you don't really need to use it, for example. Admiralty system, that's a fairly recent thing. It's similar to the duty officer system. You're sending your ships that you're not using. Well, actually, you're just sending your ships in general on missions. And every ship has a certain rating, I suppose. There's a list of all my ships that I have in my my personal fleet, ships that I have access to, not ships that I've actively used, just things I've acquired through leveling up, and things that I've got for events, and things that I've bought, and things of that nature. But you see, you got an engineering rating, a tactical rating, a science rating, and you can apply those here. And the closer you get to the required rating, the higher your success chance will be. And you level up, you get certain bonuses from that. R&D, again, back to duty officers. You build up the schools, you can get certain elements to certain higher level elements depending on what level you are. You can build your own weapons and consoles and things of that nature. Some of these require rare elements. Again, that's why some people buy the research and development packs rather than going through the events to grab them, because it's less of a hassle for people that have more money than time, that sort of thing. But my opinion, what it's really useful for is building upgrade kits for that little upgrade system that I showed you earlier.